Daniel Cooper had been invisible for 3 months. He stood in the corner of the grand reception hall watching the Volante nobles glide past him like he was furniture. Their skin shimmered with natural bioluminescence, soft blues and greens that pulsed with their emotions. They were tall, elegant, and ancient. Their empire had spread across 1,000 star systems while humans were still learning to make fire, and Daniel was just a translator, the lowest member of Earth's first diplomatic mission to the Volant Empire. Ambassador Ethan Cole stood at the center of the room surrounded by Volante officials. He was doing the important work, the real work. Daniel's job was to stand nearby in case someone needed a quick translation, but the Volante had their own translation devices. They didn't need him. Nobody needed him. He had volunteered for this mission because he believed in humanity's future among the stars. He had studied Volante language and culture for 6 years. He had dreamed of making first contact, of building bridges between civilizations. Instead, he fetched drinks and stood in corners. The reception ended late, and Daniel walked alone through the palace corridors. The Volante architecture was beautiful. In a cold way, everything was made of white stone that seemed to glow from within. The ceilings rose so high that they disappeared into shadow. It was designed to make visitors feel small. It was working. Daniel climbed a narrow staircase he had discovered during his second week. It led to a terrace that overlooked the capital city. He had never seen anyone else use it. The stones were dusty, the railings covered in climbing vines that the palace gardeners had forgotten. It was abandoned, forgotten, just like him. He stepped out into the night. Aaron let out a long breath. The Volante capital spread out below him like a sea of soft light. Their buildings didn't use harsh electric lights like human cities. Instead, they cultivated bioluminescent plants and animals that cast everything in gentle blue and green. It was beautiful, alien, impossible. Daniel leaned against the railing and looked up at the unfamiliar stars. 3 months, he said to himself. 3 months of smiling and bowing and pretending. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. He was talking to himself. That was what loneliness did to a person. It made them speak to empty air just to hear a human voice. They have no idea, he continued. None of them. They look at us and see soft little creatures from a small planet. They think we're children, harmless little things that just discovered space travel. He gripped the railing tighter. If they knew the truth, they'd be terrified. The words felt good, dangerous and good. He had been holding them inside for so long. The diplomatic team had strict rules. Present humanity as peaceful, cooperative, harmless. Make the aliens comfortable. Don't let them see what humans really are. But Daniel was alone, completely alone on a forgotten terrace, under alien stars. And he needed to speak the truth, even if only the wind could hear him. We're not peaceful, he said. We've fought wars that killed millions of our own kind. We split the atom and used it to destroy cities. We've done terrible things to each other. Terrible, terrible things. He stared at the glowing city below. But that's not why they should fear us. They should fear us because we survived. We survived everything. Ice ages that covered our world in frozen death. Plagues that killed half our population. Predators that were bigger, faster, and stronger than us in every way. His voice grew stronger. Do you know how humans hunted before we had weapons? We chased animals. That's it. We just followed them. We walked after them for hours, for days, until they collapsed from exhaustion. Because humans don't stop. We don't give up. Our bodies were designed to outlast anything. He turned and paced across the terrace. We tamed wolves and made them our friends. We captured fire and made it our servant. We looked at horses, animals that could crush us with one kick, and we climbed on their backs and rode them into battle. Everything on our planet that was dangerous, we either killed it, tamed it, or became its partner. Daniel stopped and looked back at the stars. Earth isn't a paradise. It's a death world. The gravity is heavy. The weather is extreme. The diseases are endless. And we didn't just survive there. We thrived. We conquered our entire planet and then looked up at the sky and said, "That's next." He was breathing hard now. His heart was pounding. He had never said these things out loud before. The Volanthe think they're the dominant species in this galaxy because they had space travel for 50,000 years. They think we're babies, new, weak. He shook his head. They don't understand. We're not weak. We're just being polite. We're pretending to be harmless because we're outnumbered. Because we're new here and we don't want to scare anyone. But if they ever threaten us, if they ever try to hurt Earth, he let the sentence hang in the air. They'll learn what humans really are. They'll learn why nothing on our planet could kill us. They'll learn why we're still here after everything the universe threw at us. Daniel fell silent. The night wind moved through his hair. He felt empty now, drained, but also lighter, like he had set down a weight he didn't know he was carrying. "I just hope they never find out," he whispered. "I hope we can keep pretending. I hope peace is possible." He stood there for a long moment, alone with his thoughts and the alien stars. Then a voice spoke from the shadows behind him. "You thought you were alone." Daniel spun around, his heart stopping in his chest. A figure stepped out of the darkness. She was Volanthe, tall and slender, her skin glowing with soft violet light. She wore simple robes instead of the elaborate gowns of the court nobles. Her eyes were large and dark, and they were fixed on Daniel with an expression he couldn't read. "You were not alone," she said. Daniel couldn't breathe. He couldn't move. He recognized her from the diplomatic briefings. The third daughter of the emperor, Princess Selyara Vetkin. She was considered unimportant by the court, just like him. That's why no one had told him this was her private terrace. She had heard everything. "How long?" Daniel managed to say. "How long were you listening?" The princess tilted her head slightly. Her violet glow pulsed brighter for a moment. "Long enough," she said. "Long enough to hear the truth about your people. Long enough to understand that you humans have been lying to us since you arrived." Daniel's mind raced. This was a disaster. This could end the diplomatic mission. This could start a war. "Please," he said. "I was just talking to myself. I didn't mean you meant every word." She stepped closer. "I could see it in your body heat. Hear it in your heartbeat. You believe everything you said." She stopped just a few feet away from him. The question is, she said softly, what am I going to do about it? Daniel had no answer. He stood frozen on the forgotten terrace facing an alien princess who now held the fate of humanity in her hands, and somewhere in the city below, a night bird sang a song that sounded almost like laughter. Daniel spent the next 3 days waiting for the end. He barely slept. Every time he heard footsteps in the corridor, he expected guards. Every time Ambassador Cole called a meeting, he expected to be arrested. He had revealed humanity's greatest secret to an imperial princess. The diplomatic mission was over. His career was over. Possibly his life was over, but nothing happened. No guards came. No accusations were made. The diplomatic talks continued as if nothing had changed. Princess Ciara did not report him to her father. She did not tell the court. She said nothing to anyone. Daniel didn't understand. Why was she protecting him? On the 4th day he found out. He was in the palace library, pretending to research Valenti customs. In truth, he was hiding. The library was quiet and empty, a good place to disappear. He sat at a table in the far corner, surrounded by shelves of glowing data crystals. Then she appeared. Princess Ciara walked through the library doors like she belonged there, which she did, of course. This was her home. But Daniel's heart still jumped when he saw her. She moved between the shelves with quiet grace, her violet glow soft. In the dim light, she seemed to be looking for something. Then her eyes found Daniel, and she walked directly to his table. Daniel stood up quickly. Your Highness, I didn't expect sit, she said. It wasn't a request. He sat. Ciara took the chair across from him. For a long moment, she simply looked at him. Her dark eyes searched his face like she was reading a book written in a foreign language. You have been afraid, she said finally. I can smell it on you. Fear has a particular scent. Daniel didn't know how to respond. He nodded. You expected me to tell someone what you said? Yes, why would I do that? Daniel blinked. Because I revealed that humans have been deceiving you. I admitted that we're not as harmless as we pretend to be. That's valuable information. It could change everything between our peoples. Ciara tilted her head. That strange gesture again, like a bird examining something interesting. You think information is the only thing that has value. I don't understand. She leaned back in her chair. Her glow dimmed slightly, which Daniel had learned meant thoughtfulness in Volante body language. I am the 3rd daughter of the Emperor, she said. Do you know what that means? Your royalty, important. She made a sound that might have been a laugh. I am nothing. My older sisters will inherit power and responsibility. My younger brother is beloved because he is male and young. I am in the middle. Too old to be cute. Too female to inherit. Too unimportant to matter. Daniel stayed silent. I have spent my entire life surrounded by lies, Ciara continued. Everyone in the court speaks carefully. They flatter and manipulate. They say what they think I want to hear, or what will benefit them. No one speaks truth to me. No one ever has. She leaned forward. Until you. Alone on that terrace, speaking to the stars, you told the truth. You didn't know anyone was listening. You had no reason to lie. And you spoke with such passion, such honesty. Her eyes held his. Do you have any idea how rare that is? Do you have any idea what it means to hear truth after a lifetime of beautiful lies? Daniel felt something shift in his chest. He had been so afraid of what she knew. He had never considered what it might mean to her. You were lonely, he said softly. Like me. Celiara's glow flickered. Yes, like you. The invisible princess and the invisible translator. We have more in common than our peoples do. She stood up and walked to the window. The library overlooked a garden filled with glowing plants. I have questions, she said. About your world. About humans. I want to understand the truth you spoke. What kind of questions? She turned back to him. You said humans tamed wolves. Made them into. What did you call them? Dogs, yes. Why? Daniel thought about it. Companionship at first. Wolves helped us hunt, they protected our camps at night. Over thousands of years, we bred them. Smaller, gentler. Now they're our friends. Our family, you turn predators into. Family, Celiara seemed amazed by this. We have nothing like that. The Lantfi do not form bonds with other species. Humans bond with everything, Daniel said. Dogs, cats, horses, birds. Some people keep snakes or spiders as pets. We form connections with anything that will let us. Even aliens. Daniel met her eyes. We're trying to, something passed between them in that moment, an understanding. A beginning, over the following weeks. Celiara found him everywhere. In the gardens. On the observation. Where no one else walked, she asked him. Endless questions about Earth, she asked. About human families. Daniel told her about parents who sacrificed everything for their children, about siblings who fought and loved in equal measure. About grandparents who passed down stories and wisdom. She asked about human music. Daniel played her recordings on his personal device. She listened to symphonies and folk songs and rock music with equal fascination. She didn't understand why humans would create something so chaotic, so emotional, so loud. It helps us feel. Daniel explained. Music lets us experience emotions bigger than ourselves. The Volunteer find such displays undignified, Celiara said. Do you? She was quiet for a moment. I find them beautiful. She asked about human love. This was harder to explain. The Volunteer arranged their marriages for political benefit. Love was considered a weakness, an irrationality that could compromise good judgment. Humans believe love is strength, Daniel said. We think it makes us better, braver, more willing to sacrifice for others. That seems inefficient. Maybe. But it also built our civilization. Humans do incredible things for the people they love. Celiara absorbed everything. She was brilliant and curious and desperately, achingly lonely. Daniel recognized it because he felt it. Two forgotten people in a palace full of power and politics, finding each other in empty rooms and quiet corners, but they were not as invisible as they thought. Lord Commander Dravik was the head of the Imperial military. He was old and scarred and suspicious of everything, especially the new humans who had appeared in his empire. He had argued against allowing them to stay. He believed they were spies or worse. And he had noticed the princess spending time with the human translator. At first, he dismissed it as curiosity. The princess was known for her strain interests, but as the weeks passed, Dravik grew concerned. The princess and the human were meeting in private. They were talking for hours. They were forming a connection that crossed species boundaries. He began monitoring Daniel's movements. He assigned guards to watch him. He reported his concerns to his allies in the court that something was happening between the princess and the human, something that could threaten the empire, and Dravik intended to stop it. On the terrace one evening, Selyara found Daniel watching the sunset. "There are those who would use what you told me to destroy your people," she said quietly. "I am not one of them. But you must be careful who else hears you speak." Daniel looked at her. "Is someone watching us?" "Lord Commander Dravik. He hates your kind. He thinks humans are a threat." "Are we?" Selyara's glow pulsed softly. "After everything you've told me." "Perhaps. But I do not believe threat is the right word." "What is the right word?" She looked out at the fading light. "Hope," she said. "I think perhaps you are hope." And standing there together on the forgotten terrace, Daniel began to believe she might be right. The message came at midnight that Daniel was in his quarters trying to sleep and failing. His mind kept returning to Selyara's warning about Lord Commander Dravik. The military leader was watching them. One wrong move could destroy everything. Then his door chimed that he opened it to find a palace servant holding a small data crystal. The servant said nothing, simply handed Daniel the crystal and walked away. Daniel pressed the crystal and a holographic message appeared. It was from Selyara. "Come to the Temple of Stars. Use the servant passages on the 3rd level. Tell no one." The message dissolved that Daniel knew he should ignore it. Meeting the princess in secret in the middle of the night at an temple no human had ever entered. It was dangerous. It was foolish. He went anyway. The servant passages were narrow and dark. They were designed for palace workers to move without being seen by noble guests. Daniel had learned about them during his second month when he was so invisible that servants forgot to hide from him. He followed Selyara's directions until he reached a small door marked with ancient symbols. It opened at his touch. The Temple of Stars took his breath away. The ceiling was made of crystal, perfectly clear, showing the entire night sky. But it was more than that. The crystal somehow magnified and enhanced the starlight, making each point of light burn like a small sun. Thousands of stars blazed overhead, so bright that Daniel could read by their light, and in the center of the temple, 2 figures waited. Selyara stood beside an ancient Volante woman. The woman was older than anyone Daniel had ever seen. Her skin had faded from luminescent to a soft pearl white. Her eyes were covered with thin gray films, but she radiated power, authority, wisdom. "This is High Priestess Morvina," Selyara said. "She has kept the sacred prophecies for 400 years. Daniel bowed. He didn't know the proper greeting, but bowing seemed safe. Morvina made a sound like rustling leaves. "So this is the human, the one who speaks truth to empty air." Daniel's face grew hot. "You know about that?" "I know about everything that happens in my temple." She gestured toward the terrace outside. That terrace was mine before it was the princess's. I grew too old to climb the stairs, so I gave it to her. She stepped closer to Daniel. Despite her blindness, she moved with perfect confidence. The princess tells me you spoke of your world, of its dangers, its violence, its survivors. I did. She believes you told the truth. I did. Morvina smiled. It transformed her ancient face into something almost young. Good. Because I have something to show you. Something that may explain why your people came to us now, after 50,000 years of silence from your world. She turned and walked deeper into the temple. Seliara took Daniel's hand and pulled him along. They entered a chamber filled with floating crystals. Each crystal contained images and text in ancient Volante script. Morvina stopped before the largest crystal, which hung in the center of the room like a frozen star. This is the oldest prophecy in our records, she said. It was spoken 10,000 years ago by the first high priestess. We have interpreted it many ways over the centuries, but we never truly understood it. She touched the crystal and words appeared in the air, glowing with soft light. Daniel couldn't read Volante script, but Seliara translated in a whisper. From a world of poison and fire, the small ones will come. They will seem weak. They will seem harmless. But when the darkness returns, only they will stand in the final hour. Daniel felt cold. What does that mean? We didn't know, Morvina said. For 10,000 years, we searched for the world described in the prophecy. A world of poison and fire. A world that produces small, weak-seeming creatures who are somehow capable of standing against the darkness. She turned her blind eyes toward Daniel. Then your people arrived, and the princess heard your confession. And suddenly the prophecy became clear. Earth Urspard. You think the prophecy is about Earth. Your world is heavy with gravity. Morvina said. Your atmosphere contains oxygen, which is poison to most species. Your sun burns with radiation. Your weather patterns are violent and unpredictable. Your native life includes predators, parasites, and diseases that would kill any Volante within hours. She stepped closer. A world of poison and fire. And from it came humans. Small by galactic standards. Physically weak compared to most species. No natural weapons. No armor. No vam, but we survived, Daniel said. You more than survive. You endure. You adapt. You overcome. Morvina's voice grew soft. The prophecy spoke of creatures who would seem harmless but carry hidden strength. Creatures from an impossible world who would stand when all others fell. Daniel's heart was pounding. What is the darkness? Silence filled the temple. Ciara answered. It's real, Daniel. Not just a prophecy. Not just a symbol. There's something out there. Something that destroys civilizations. Morvina nodded slowly. The Volante Empire is great. But we were not the first great empire. In this galaxy, before us came the Kavathi. They ruled for 100,000 years. They built wonders that we cannot match. Even now, what happened to them? The darkness came. We don't know exactly what it was. The records are incomplete. But something swept through their empire. Like fire through dry grass. In less than a century, the Kavathi were gone. Their worlds were empty. Their stations were silent. Billions of lives erased. Daniel felt sick. And it's coming back. The prophecy says it will return. The prophecy says when it does, only the small ones from the world of poison and fire will stand against it. Why? Why humans? Morvina reached out and touched Daniel's face. Her fingers were cool and dry. I don't know. Perhaps because you come from a world that tried to kill you every day and you learned to fight back. Perhaps because you formed bonds with predators and made them your allies. Perhaps because you never give up, never stop, never surrender. She smiled her ancient smile. Perhaps because you were forged in fire. And fire does not fear the dark. They stood in silence for a long moment. Then Morvina stepped back. The princess believes in you, young human. She believes your people are the answer we have waited for. I am not certain, but I am hopeful. Daniel looked at Ciliara. Her violet glow was brighter than he had ever seen it. I'm just a translator, he said. I'm nobody important. You were the one who spoke truth on the terrace, Ciliara said. You were the one who was honest when honesty was dangerous. That matters. It matters more than you know. They left the temple as the first light of dawn touched the crystal ceiling. The stars faded, but their images seemed burned into Daniel's eyes. He had come to this world as an invisible translator. Now he carried the weight of an ancient prophecy done at the temple entrance. They nearly ran into Lord Commander Dravik. The old warrior stood in their path, his scarred face twisted with suspicion. His eyes moved from Daniel to Solara, and back again. The princess, he said slowly, and the human, leaving the Temple of Stars. Together, at dawn. Solara lifted her chin. I do not answer to you, Commander. No, but the human might. Dravik's gaze fixed on Daniel. What were you doing in a sacred place? Translator. What secrets were you stealing? I stole nothing, we shall see. Dravik stepped aside, but his voice followed them as they walked away. I am watching you, human. I'm watching you very carefully. Later that day, Dravik appeared in Ambassador Cole's office. Your translator spends his nights with our princess and visits forbidden temples, the commander said. What are you humans really hiding? The ambassador had no answer. But Daniel, standing in the corner as always, felt the walls closing in. The prophecy spoke of hope. But hope, Daniel was learning, was a dangerous thing. The challenge came 3 days later. Daniel was in the palace courtyard watching Valenti nobles practice their morning exercises. Their movements were graceful and precise, more like dance than combat. Training. He was trying to understand their fighting style when a shadow fell over him. Lord Commander Dravik stood there, flanked by 2 guards. Human, Dravik said. The word sounded like an insult. Daniel rose slowly. Commander, you have been spending time with Princess Ciliara. Private time. Inappropriate time. We are friends. Dravik's scarred face twisted. Friends. A creature like you does not become friends with imperial royalty. You have been manipulating her, pursuing her without station or worth. This is an insult to the throng. Daniel felt his stomach drop. That's not true. I have never silence. Dravik's voice cut through the courtyard. Nearby nobles stopped their exercises. They were watching now. You have insulted the princess. You have insulted the empire. There is only one way to answer such insult. He drew a blade from his belt. It hummed with energy, glowing white-hot along its edge. I challenge you to honor combat. Refuse and you admit your guilt. Accept and we settle this like warriors. Daniel stared at the energy blade. Volante honor duels were famous across the galaxy. They were fast, brutal, and always fatal for the less skilled fighter. Daniel had no skill, no train, no chance. I need to consult with my ambassador, he said. You may consult, but know this. If you refuse, it will prove that humans are cowards who hide behind diplomacy because they lack the courage to fight. Your entire delegation will be disgraced. Is that what you want for your people? Daniel's mind raced. If he refused, it would confirm every negative thing the Volante believed about humans. The diplomatic mission would fail. Humanity's first steps into the galactic community would end in shame. But if he accepted, he would die. Ambassador Cole arrived within the hour. He pulled Daniel into a private room, his face pale. You can't do this, Cole said. I'll speak to the Emperor. I'll find another way. There is no other way. Dravik planned this perfectly. If I back down, we prove humans are weak. If you fight, you die. Daniel looked at his hands. They were shaking slightly. Maybe, but at least I'll die standing up. Daniel, sir, I've been invisible for 3 months. Nobody on this mission needed me. Nobody in this palace noticed me. But now I have a chance to matter, to show them what humans really are. He met the ambassador's eyes. I talked about human endurance on that terrace. I said we don't stop, don't give up, don't surrender. If I refuse this fight, I make myself a liar. I make all of us liars. Cole was silent for a long moment. You're sure about this? No, but I'm going to do it anyway. The duel was held at sunset in the palace's grand arena. Thousands of Volante filled the seats, their bioluminescent skin creating a sea of soft colors. Word had spread quickly. A human was going to fight a Volante warrior. Everyone wanted to see. Daniel stood at one end of the arena, wearing simple clothes. The Volante had offered him armor, but he refused. Armor wouldn't save him. Nothing would save him. He might as well be comfortable. Dravik stood at the other end, his energy blade already glowing. The commander was massive, covered in old scars, radiating confidence. He had fought hundreds of duels. He had never lost in the royal box. Princess Celia sat frozen. She had tried to stop this. She had begged her father to intervene. But the Emperor valued tradition over mercy. The challenge had been issued and accepted. It must be honored. She could only watch. The signal sounded. Dravik attacked. Immediately. He was fast. Faster than Daniel could follow. The energy blade sliced through the air, and Daniel barely threw himself backward. In time, the blade missed his chest by inches. Again and again, Dravik pressed forward, his blade a blur of white light. Daniel stumbled, rolled, scrambled to his feet. He had no weapon. He had no plan. He was simply trying not to die. The crowd murmured. This was not a duel. This was an execution. Dravik's blade caught Daniel's shoulder. Pain exploded through his arm. He felt blood running down his skin, soaking his shirt. "Stay down," Dravik said. "Accept defeat. I will make your death quick." Daniel fell to his knees. The arena spun around him. He could barely breathe. Then he looked up and saw Celia. She was gripping the railing of the royal box, her glow flickering with distress. She believed in him. She believed humans were the answer to an ancient prophecy. She believed in hope. Daniel thought about everything he had said on the terrace, about human endurance, about persistence, about never giving up. He got back up. The crowd went silent. Dravik stared. "What are you doing?" Daniel didn't answer. He raised his fists, even though they were useless, against an energy blade. Blood dripped from his shoulder. His legs trembled. But he stood. Dravik attacked again. His blade cut Daniel's side. Daniel staggered but stayed on his feet. Again, a cut across his back. Daniel stumbled forward, caught himself, straightened up, again and again. And again, but each time Daniel fell, he got back up. Each time Dravik cut him, he refused to stay down. Blood covered the arena floor. Daniel's vision blurred with pain. But he kept standing. The crowd's murmuring changed. What had started as contempt became confusion, then curiosity, then something like wonder. Valenti warriors fell when wounded. They accepted defeat when outmatched. It was logical, efficient. There was no honor in pointless suffering. But this human wouldn't fall. Dravik's attacks became wild, frustrated. He cut deeper, trying to force Daniel down. But every time Daniel dropped to his knees, he pushed himself back up. Every time Dravik waited for surrender, Daniel raised his fists. "Why won't you stay down?" Dravik commanded. His voice had lost its confidence, but Daniel spoke through bloody lips. "Because I'm human." Something Cilara had taught him came to his mind. An old Valenti phrase from the warrior codes, words spoken before the final stand. "I have not yet begun," Daniel whispered. Then he moved. He didn't attack with skill. He didn't use technique or strategy. He simply charged forward directly into Dravik's blade. The energy blade entered his side. Daniel screamed. But he didn't stop. He kept moving, pushing forward even as the blade burned through him until he was close enough to grab Dravik's arm. Then he did what humans have done for millions of years. He held on. Dravik tried to pull free. He was stronger, taller, better trained. But Daniel's grip was iron, unbreakable. Desperate, they struggled. Dravik's blade arm trembled. He had been fighting for nearly an hour. His muscles were exhausted. His energy was depleted, but Daniel felt his strength fading too. But humans were built for this. Built to keep going when everything said stop. Built to outlast. Dravik's blade arm dropped, but Daniel twisted, pulled, and suddenly he had the blade. He didn't know how to use it properly. But he didn't need to. He pressed the edge against Dravik's throat. "Yield," Daniel said. Dravik's eyes were wide with shock. His chest heaved. He had never been beaten, never been outlasted. "Yield," Daniel said again. The arena was silent. 10,000 Valenti held their breath. Slowly, the great Lord Commander dropped to his knees. "I yield," Dravik whispered, but Daniel stepped back. The energy blade fell from his fingers. The world spun around him. But from the royal box, High Priestess Morvina rose to her feet. Her ancient voice carried across the silent arena. "The prophecy wakes," she announced. "The small ones have come." Daniel collapsed. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Solara, running across the arena floor, her violet glow brighter than stars. She was calling his name. 1 year later, Daniel stood on the terrace again. The view had not changed. The capital city still spread below him, like a sea of soft light. The alien stars still burned in unfamiliar patterns overhead. The climbing vines still covered the old railings, but everything else was different. He was different. The scars on his body had healed mostly. Volante medicine was advanced, far beyond anything on Earth. But they had left some scars visible at his request. He wanted to remember. He needed to remember. His position had changed too. He was no longer the invisible translator who stood in corners. After the duel, after the prophecy announcement, everything had shifted. The Emperor himself had requested Daniel's presence at court meetings. Human and Volante officials worked together now, sharing knowledge, building trust. Humanity's role in the galaxy had transformed. Word of the duel had spread across the Empire within days. Within weeks, it had reached the edges of known space. A human had fought a Volante warrior, lord in single combat. A human had been cut down again and refused to stay down. A human had won through sheer impossible endurance. The galaxy began to look at humanity differently. Other species sent delegations to Earth. They wanted to see the death world that had produced such creatures. They wanted to understand how species could survive on a planet of poison and fire. They wanted to know the secret of human persistence. There was no secret. There was only a simple truth that Daniel had spoken to empty air one night. On a forgotten terrace, humans don't stop. They can't be broken. They endure. Now human soldiers trained alongside Volante warriors. Human doctors shared medical techniques that the Empire had never considered. Human engineers helped build new defenses, new stations, new ships. All in preparation for what was coming. The darkness, deep space sensors had detected something at the edge of the galaxy, something moving slowly but steadily towards settled space. The reports were incomplete, contradictory, frightening, but one thing was clear: the ancient enemy was returning. Daniel thought about this as he watched the city below. The weight of it pressed down on him. An entire galaxy was counting on humans to fulfill a prophecy that was 10,000 years old, a prophecy that said only the small ones from the world of poison and fire could stand in the final hour. It was too much. It was impossible. But then again, humans specialized in impossible things. Footsteps sounded behind him. Soft, familiar footsteps that made his heart beat faster. Solara stepped onto the terrace. She had changed too in the past year. She was no longer the forgotten princess, the political afterthought. The prophecy had elevated her. She had been the one to recognize what humans truly were. She had brought Daniel to the temple. She had believed when others doubted. Now she served as the official liaison between the Volante throne and Earth's government. She traveled between worlds. She spoke to crowds of millions. She was important, but she still came to this terrace, their terrace, I thought I might find you here, she said. Daniel turned to face her. Her violet glow was soft in the darkness, beautiful. I couldn't sleep, he said. Too many thoughts about the darkness, about everything. Selyara walked to the railing and stood beside him. They looked out at the city together, the way they had done so many times before. Do you remember what you confessed that first night? She asked. The night I heard you speaking to the stars. Daniel smiled slightly. I remember. I said humans were hiding their true nature, pretending to be harmless because we were outnumbered. You were wrong, he looked at her. You weren't hiding your nature, Selyara said. You were hiding your hearts. Humans don't fight because you love violence. You fight because you love too deeply to stop. She turned to face him fully. Her dark eyes reflected the starlight. I've watched your people for a year. Now, I've seen human soldiers cry over fallen enemies. I've seen human doctors work themselves to exhaustion saving strangers. I've seen humans adopt orphans from other species, form friendships across impossible divides, build families from nothing but love and determination. Her voice softened. You don't endure because you're strong. You endure because you care. Every time you get back up, it's because someone is counting on you. Someone needs you. Someone loves you. Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. Selyara, you asked me once why I didn't report what you said that first night. Why I protected you. You said you valued honesty. That was part of it. She stepped closer. But there was more. When you spoke about Earth, about humanity's struggles and survival, I heard something in your voice, pain, loneliness, hope, the same things I felt every day in this palace. She reached up and touched his face. Her fingers were cool against his skin. I protected you because I recognized you were like me, lost, invisible, desperate for connection. And somehow, across all the impossible distance between our worlds, we found each other. Daniel covered her hand with his own. I have another confession to make, he said. Tell me. That first night I thought I was alone. I thought I was speaking to empty air, to stars that couldn't hear me. I thought my words didn't matter because no one would ever know. He pulled her closer. But you heard me. You listened. And everything changed. I changed. Because of you, I became someone who could stand in that arena and refuse to fall. Because of you, I found the courage to be the human I described in my confession. His voice dropped to a whisper. I love you, Selyara. I have loved you since the night you stepped out of the shadows and said I wasn't alone. I love you more with every day that passes, and I will love you until the darkness comes and goes and the stars burn out. Selyara's glow brightened. Violet light surrounded them both, warm and soft. I heard your first impossible confession, she said. Did you think I would miss your second? She kissed him. The alien stars watched from above. The city glowed below. And on the forgotten terrace that had brought them together, two souls from different worlds chose each other. When they finally pulled apart, Selyara was smiling. The darkness is coming, she said. The galaxy is afraid. War is inevitable. I know. Are you ready? Daniel thought about everything that had brought him here. A lonely night. An honest confession. A princess who listened. A duel he should have lost. A prophecy he never asked to fulfill. He thought about Earth, the death world. That had created humans. He thought about his people who had survived ice and fire and each other. He thought about what they would do when the darkness arrived. Humans are never ready, he said. But we show up anyway. We fight anyway. We endure anyway. He took Selyara's hand. Whatever comes, we'll face it. Together. An alarm suddenly pierced the night. Red lights began flashing across the city below. The Lamphite guard shouted in distant corridors. Selyara's personal communicator chimed. She answered it, listened, and her face went pale. The deep space sensors, she said. The darkness has been detected. It's accelerating. Faster than we expected. Daniel felt fear touch his heart. But only for a moment. Then he straightened his shoulders, squeezed Selyara's hand and walked toward the terrace door. Then we better get started. Below them, the city erupted into organized chaos. Ships launched. Soldiers mobilized. Diplomats scrambled. The galaxy was waking up to the threat it had feared for 10,000 years. But for the first time in all those years, there was hope. Because the small ones from the world of poison and fire had come at last. The humans were here. And they would not stop, would not fall, would not surrender. Daniel paused at the door and looked back at the terrace. One last time. He had thought he was alone that first night. He had been wrong. He would never be alone again. And somewhere out in the darkness, between stars, an ancient enemy approached. It had destroyed civilizations. And it ended empires. And it consumed worlds without number. But it had never faced humans before. But it had no idea what was coming.